In this video, we are going to look at the chapter of polynomials and partial fractions, focusing on the skill of how do we use and apply the division algorithm. Okay, but before we go into that, we first need to understand the very important basic to this chapter, which is that any polynomial in this chapter, fx, can actually be written as a divisor times quotient plus remainder. So, and in this case over here, this fx here, we will call this the dividend. So actually, if we look at this equation here, any polynomial or any dividend can be written as a divisor times a quotient plus a remainder. So let's look at one very simple example. Let's say that, imagine example 1. If I have this polynomial 4x cubed minus 5x plus 5, if I divide, let's say, this polynomial fx by 2x plus 1, I will notice that actually I can write this polynomial fx in this form over here, whereby fx, this is my fx, this can be written as fx is equal to, if I divide this by 2x plus 1, this is actually my divisor. So it can be rewritten as a divisor, and I'll obtain a divisor times a quotient. And this thing at the back over here, I will add a remainder. Okay, so any polynomial, we can actually rewrite it in this form as long as I divide this polynomial by a divisor. But how do we even obtain this form over here? And this brings us to how to use the division algorithm. In order to divide a polynomial by a divisor, we will use the division algorithm to help us obtain what is the quotient and what is the remainder. So let's look at one very simple example. Let's look at example 2 here. Okay, find a remainder when this polynomial 6x power 4 minus 8x cubed plus 3x squared plus 4x minus 1 is divided by this divisor here. So it's important for us to know which is the dividend and which is the divisor. So in this case over here, I know that when I divide something by this is the divisor, 2x squared minus 4x plus 3. And over here, this entire polynomial here, this is the dividend. Okay, so first step, when I want to apply the division algorithm, I first rewrite my terms, my divisor and dividend into this working as such. Okay, I'm dividing this dividend here by this divisor. This is very similar to what you have learned in primary school. So let's do a very simple understanding over here. From what you learned in primary school, if I say that I divide 8 by 4, okay, by long division, what we have learned before is that I put the 4, the divisor, outside, and I divide it by 8. Then very simply, I can use my long division in order to divide 8 by 4. Okay, so now this is what we learned in primary school. Now in A-Math in this chapter, I'm simply replacing all these numbers by polynomials. But the concept-wise, it's still the same. Okay, so let's look at how do we apply the long division algorithm in order to obtain my quotient and the remainder. Okay, so for this part over here, let's look at my first term here. Okay, in this dividend here, I have 6x power 4. My divisor, the highest degree is 2. So my term with the highest degree is 2x squared. So my first step is that I must first find what is the term that needs to be multiplied to this entire expression here, this entire divisor, such that I can get rid of 6x power 4. So by observation, you should be able to see that I need to multiply 3x squared to this divisor here so that I can obtain a 6x power 4 in this term over here. Okay, and therefore this will help me to get rid of this 6x power 4. So my first term that I'll multiply is that I'll write over here, I'll multiply by 3x squared. Okay, so now when I write 3x squared, this 3x squared will multiply to my entire divisor over here. And now I'll rewrite this entire multiplied divisor into the next line here. So this will become 6x power 4. Okay, then my next term will be 3x squared multiplied to minus 4x. So this will become minus 12x cubed. And the last one is 3x squared multiplied to the last term plus 3. And I'll get plus 9x squared. Okay, Then from here, what I'll do is that once I figured this out, I will simply subtract this away from the dividend. So what I'll do is that I'll put a minus, then I'll bracket the entire expression here. Then after that, I'll subtract this entire expression here away from the original dividend. So by subtraction, you should be able to see that 6x power 4 minus away 6x power 4 will give me 0. Next, this is negative 8x cubed minus away negative 12x cubed. So this is actually negative 8x cubed plus 12x cubed, because I consider this negative sign here. I'm subtracting negative 12x cubed away. So this will be 12x cubed minus away 8x power 3. This will become 4x cubed. Okay, then moving on, this is 3x squared, subtract away 9x squared. So therefore from here I'll get negative 6x squared. Okay, and I can bring down the remaining terms over here. Here I have a 4x and a minus 1. So I can bring this down because nothing happens to these terms. Okay, then moving on. Now my leading term over here is 4x cubed. So my next step is I must determine what term do I need to multiply to this divisor here in order to get rid of 4x cubed. Okay, so by observation, you should see that this is a 2 and this is a 4. I must multiply a 2. And this is a power x power 2 here. This is x power 3, so I must multiply by a x. So I need to multiply by positive 2x. So once I written this out, my next step is to multiply this 2x into the entire divisor here. Okay, so when I multiply this in, I will get 2x times 2x squared will give me 4x power 3. Then 2x multiplied to negative minus 4x. This will give me minus 8x squared. Then 2x multiplied to 3. This will give me plus 6x. Okay, then same thing, I'll subtract away this entire expression from this expression here. So therefore, if I continue to simplify down, you should notice that 4x cubed subtract 4x cubed will give me 0. Don't need to write anything. Next step, negative 6x squared subtract away negative 8x squared. So this is simply positive 8x squared minus away 6x squared. This will give me 2x squared. Then this is 4x, subtract away 6x, I'll get negative minus 2x. Then this negative 1 we can bring down because nothing happens to it, minus 1. And now my last step, I'll notice that I will have to multiply this entire, I must first find what is the last thing here I don't need to multiply in order to get the leading term here, 2x squared. And I note that here is already 2x squared, so I just need to multiply by 1. So I'll add up times 1. And this entire divisor here will multiply by 1 and I'll write it into the next line here. So I'll get 2x squared minus 4x plus 3. Okay, and now I'll subtract this away. I'll be left with 2x squared minus 2x squared is nothing. Then over here, negative minus 2x, subtract away negative 4x. So therefore, I'm left with 4x minus 2x, which will give me 2x. And the last one is negative 1 subtract away 3. So this is negative 1 minus 3, I will get minus 4. Okay, so from this is the entire long division. I will continue until I realize that the degree of this remainder here is less than the degree of my divisor. Okay, so what I've seen over here is that in this case over here, this thing here is called your quotient. And over here, this is called your remainder. Okay, why do we stop over here? It's because we notice that over here, my remainder, my leading term here is 2x. There is nothing that I can multiply to 2x squared in order to give me a 2x. That is still a polynomial. Okay, so in this case over here, the quotient, I cannot add anything else over here. So therefore, this remainder will stop over here. And therefore, I have my quotient and I have my remainder. Okay, so to answer the question, we have found the remainder. Find the remainder in this case over here. My remainder is 2x minus 4. And therefore, last step, I can rewrite this whole polynomial originally given in this form here. if you recall what we have learned, any polynomial in this chapter, we learned that it can be expressed in this form, divisor times quotient plus remainder. So over here, if I can rewrite this polynomial to become the divisor, which is 2x squared minus 4x plus 3 times quotient 3x squared plus 2x plus 1, then plus add the remainder at the end, plus 2x minus 4. So to recap again, this is my divisor. This is my quotient. Okay, and the last step over here, this is the remainder. Okay. And if you notice how to check if your answer is correct, simply you can just expand these two brackets out and combine all the terms together. You should obtain back this original polynomial over here. Okay, so with that, we have covered this very important skill of how do we apply and use the division algorithm in order to obtain a quotient and the remainder if I divide a polynomial fx by a divisor. Yep, so that's the end of this video.